Alright, so in the previous part we have covered the control flow with the for annotation, the for syntax. So again, as mentioned before, for the ng if regarding the for, you would have to use for previous versions 16 and below the ng4 structural directive. Starting from Angular 17, you can use both the old way and this for with the at annotation. So we have covered that use case where we had an array of objects and we were displaying the name of the name of each user. We also played a bit with something that's not part of the tutorial itself, but which is quite useful to debug objects and arrays. So we played a bit with the JSON pipe by interpolating the full and displaying the full user by using the JSON pipe and importing it from Angular Common Package. We also used it applied on the full users array to have the full users array displayed. It's convenient sometimes to see if the data is passed properly to the template, so that you know that you can only focus on the template to fix whatever you need to fix. Perfect. So now the next step will be to work on property binding. Okay, so here we have a component. All right, an app component that has a template that is pre-prepared for us with the div and the content editable attribute, which is at false. All right, perfect. So they are here. They are giving us an example, right, where we have an image, okay, and we can bind a property, for example, image URL that we would have in the parent component that will contain that image. So we are binding that property to the src attribute or the src input of the image component. We are binding it and passing it so that the image will get will from the URL get the image and display it. Perfect. So now let's start with the exercise. So they are asking us to create a property is editable. Okay, so we can already understand that most likely the property will be used here. So because by default it is to true, so we are getting a boolean, same as here things are at false. So for the moment the value is false, so we cannot edit that. Perfect. And now what they want us to do is to bind this property. So for that we will use here, instead of a simple attribute, we will use the square bracket annotation, because this is a component that will get what we call an input, and its input is content editable, and then we'll pass the value of that input. So we use the square brackets to wrap the content editable attribute so that it becomes an input, and we will bind this property to that attribute. So let's take is editable, and instead of the false, put it here. Okay, let's wait for a reload, and now we see that it is editable, right? Because we're passing this property, and this property is set to true. If we make it at false and we wait for the reload, we cannot edit it. All right, so that's a small introduction to property binding to an input of a component, here in this case the div component. Perfect. So the next step will be event handling. So here we covered the use case where we are passing some information down to the child, which is the div. Okay, sometimes something happens in the child, such as an event, okay, and the information comes from the child to the parent, and we want in the parent to react to that to that to that event. Okay, so this is the event handling part.